Yeah, and Kyle, there you go.
Snagged a
We were
photo.
able to get you in there over some
Oh
beef and
wow.
broccoli today.
Oh, beef and broccoli?
Yeah.
Who made
So
that?
it's the fastest
What?
place I could get lunch today was the Chinese restaurant across the street.
Oh,
That's good. I had tacos across the street.
Ah,
I've
they
got
weren't
this taco
open yet.
shop. I've got this taco shop across the street that is absolutely unbelievably good. And it's a, like we've got a lot of in the city I live, we've got a lot of those taco trucks. So it's a taco truck.
I was gonna say, as a street truck.
Yeah, this lady speaks like 18 words of English, and
Perfect.
You know the
know
food's
it's
good then.
yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, she's like, and like they give you two sauces. One is the red and one is the green, and the green one's the hot. And like one day last week, I finally was just like, I just want the green, and she goes, oh. I was like, yeah. So now you like me. I see what it is.
Yeah, isn't the Verde usually the mild and the Rojas the hot?
Yeah, no,
Usually.
this one's flipped. The other the red one is can't it's like smoky. It's like kind of calm and smoky, but the green one they make is like it'll eat you up, but it's good.
I used to be able to do spicy stuff for whatever reason. I just don't get away with it anymore.
Oh, dude! Every time, since my name's Ben Hadley, right? So it's like I have to like tell Asian restaurants I'm Asian, just to let them know to like, hey, I can handle it, but I'm all about that spice. I'm all about the spice.
Oh man, you would love hot chicken, Nashville hot chicken.
Dude, I love hot chicken, bro. What's the? I went to the famous one. There's like two competing
Prince's,
which
or
one?
it'd be Prince's or Hattie B's.
Hattie B's.
Yeah, that's the kind of like that's the one that everyone in town is like, yeah, we know that one's famous, but it's not that, it's not the one. So
really,
Prince's is like the one where everyone's like, if you know kind of thing. But there's actually even better ones these days that have like really come in strong. Like there's kind of like a black market hot chicken, communication platform that's what everyone goes to. It's like 400 degrees is the one. Yeah.
No way. Like WhatsApp, but for hot chicken?
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Prince's is the who's Oksana? That person knows exactly what's up. Prince's is the OG. There you go. Whoa!
That intro.
Hey.
No.
So we're here to talk about chicken, not websites, right?
Exactly. They have a lot to do with each other.
Don't tell them the secret. Don't tell them the secret app. Keep it a secret.
Hey, so hello everybody.
What's happening?
Yeah. Well, a little something happened with these two above us.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben,
Something
you
big.
were, in case everyone was wondering, Ben's Asian. He was just telling us this a minute ago.
Wait, what?
Golly, I wish I'd have known.
I know. So
Late to the game, buddy.
Yeah, that's going to play out for a long time, Ben.
I love it.
So, and Ben and I are around, down the street from each other, basically. So, but last time we had Ben on, which was not long ago, we were having some fun talking about crypto. And then I don't know if you saw Kevin Fry's group, the Weiler group, sold their first car with crypto since then.
I did.
Yeah.
And
Overseas.
maybe
It's pretty
when
cool.
we have the next crypto episode, we invite Kevin on and
For sure.
talk about it
100%.
that way.
That'd be badass.
Great.
And so with that, we all know who Ben is. If you watch that show, we'll give you a little minute to introduce yourself again. And then who's this other dude?
He said,
Yeah, who's Kyle?
Just a guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a
1
guy
minute.
with hats. That's why they invited me. That's all.
I don't know how I do anything in a minute. My name is Ben, and I'm the co-founder of Auto Genius, and have a long history in sort of automotive, starting with a family that has 5 dealerships and then moving on to dealer.com and then Clairvoy, then Upstart / Prodigy. And then this is what I do now. Make cool shit.
Been around the block.
Been around the block. Yeah.
He's like Jenny.
Done a few things.
Yeah, I'm Kyle. My story started in automotive retail. So I started selling cars, almost 13 years ago now. Was all through the dealership ranks, worked for a few different dealerships, opened stores, finance, training, marketing, the whole 9 yards. Kind of sunk my teeth in the marketing, biz dev, operations side. And then, last year left the retail side of the business to go to the dark side. Co-founder of Auto Genius, also co-founder of Asodu, and really enjoying building cool stuff. Because
what's Asodu?
So Asodu is Automotive State of the Union. It's the only dealer-owned media publisher out there. So we've got a daily email that is actually fun to read. It's like 5 minutes. We throw some gifts in there, get you ahead of the day. We do a daily podcast too, myself and Paul Daly, and we're throwing some live events here soon. So that's another project that I've got going. But awesome. Building cool tech is that's a fun meat and potatoes for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, it takes a special person to transition from being a full-on car dealer to becoming a civilian and serving dealers.
Yeah, there's definitely
I tested it out. I tested it out once. Didn't last long.
There's like that crossfade of like for a few months, everyone was still like, yeah, you're pretty much from a dealer. Like we listen to you like what's on the boots on the ground, and it's starting to slowly fade into like you're just that guy that's on LinkedIn that has an opinion and you're a vendor. So, yeah, that's I get it. I stay boots on ground. We got projects with dealers and I try and stay real about it. So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of projects, y'all launched a website company. Is that the right way to say it? Or a website platform might be.
Ooh.
We've been talking about this a lot recently.
Yeah. A microservices ecosystem.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So
that happens to make websites.
So I don't know a lot about what you guys have got going other than a little bit of some conversations that Ben, you and I have had. I could wrap my head around a lot of the recent technologies that you've implemented to pull this off. However, when you're going from what our industry is known since like the late 90s when we started to get dealership websites, and actually when most of them that we're still using right now were originally made, to try and wrap your head around like the difference in technology from 1998 to what you can do today is obviously vast. It's like going from a Game Boy to an Oculus, as you guys were joking earlier.
Yeah.
But, so like, I would just ask, as we're having this conversation today, to try and like, as we jump into data lake conversations and things like that, let's define those components and pieces so that people who, have been using maybe a seamless website application would be able to recognize the differences.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's start with 1998.
Cool.
And we can
Well,
pretty
Cobalt
quickly
was
cover,
a player at that point. I think dealer.com was coming to market.
Yeah, I think 98, 96, somewhere in there. I always think about, there's a timeline here of like by 1998, Edmunds and Cars.com and Auto Trader were already online and like knew that that's where the consumer was going to be. Right. And it took a long time actually for, I think, the general dealer population to also hop on board too. Part of that, I think, is that the technology that was available wasn't that enticing. I mean, it was sort of just like, we can make a web page, we can kind of get inventory on. But I also think a lot of people weren't really wrapping their heads around the opportunity, the market size opportunity that was available. But technology wise, 98 and then plus like another 20 years, the basic way websites worked was like, hey, I have this IP address that talks to a DNS that then tells me what server to talk to. And then that browser and that server kind of now start talking back and forth to each other. And we had iterations and iterations of that. And most of those iterations centered around things like the screens that we were using to look at the website changing. Like everybody probably remembers like .mobi. It's like a weird moment of internet. And you fast forward to today, and over the last sort of like 3-4 years, this stuff is really finally sharp enough to be not just usable, but like massively usable. Like everybody could hop on to using some of the tech that we're using into this headless infrastructure. And what that looks like is instead of, hey, DNS, what server do I go talk to in order to get my browser and you connected? It's actually like, hey, DNS, done. And everything very similar to how Toyota mastered just-in-time manufacturing. Everything, all the data ends up being delivered just in time. I think the better example that I always tell people is like, if anybody remembers Grand Theft Auto 3, when you drove into a bridge, the whole city loaded. By Grand Theft Auto Vice City and Grand Theft Auto 4, a developer realized, why load the tree that nobody can see? In fact, like, why even load the leaves? Just make it green. And then as you drive closer and closer to it, now start loading green leaves, now start making better detail, now start really emphasizing the data. And how that works on a website is cool. You don't need to load all of it, but if there's an event like a scroll, then start loading all the other stuff immediately. So it's so fast that your eye's not perceptively even seeing loading. And that means that you can basically cache a large portion of the website up front, and then all of the other pieces of data are sort of the dynamically added pieces. If that makes sense.
Well, and I think there's one iteration that I just want to make sure that people kind of get, like, especially for maybe those that might be lost in the tech side of this, is, late 2000s, 2010, 2015, somewhere in there, all of the technology was going, okay, great. Someone got to needing to see this. Let's go find it all, which is what Ben's describing in the DNS server, right? Let's go, like, now that they're here, let's go find it all. Great. Go grab it from all these resources, all these server requests that happen. There was this like time frame that actually what we at Auto Genius have kind of like leapfrogged over, in auto at least, that what was happening was like when someone got to the main place, the rest of everything actually loaded in the background, right? So it said, and that was called single page application. So it said, great, we're at the home page. Now we know they might need to see something on the rest of the site. So let's load the whole thing in the background and make all the server requests. So that way, when they get there, it feels fast. So what it made is like the feeling of fast for most of the website. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, let's bring all of that together. And it's actually called Jamstack. It stands for something, but like it literally compresses everything to right in front of the user so that when they need it, it's there immediately. And that's the difference. That's the variance in what we've seen in the speed. So, yeah, layman's terms, maybe as close as layman as I can get it.
Yeah. Yep.
I like your GTA example, as does Andrew. There could be another one if you're really old and you used to use the internet through a US robotics modem.
Yes.
You remember those?
I did use a modem first time, but I'm missing I'm excited for the explanation.
Well, remember there's 14K, 56K
Yeah.
modes. You
Yeah.
pull up
Yep.
a page and you have to wait like 5 minutes for an image to load, and it would load
yeah.
in like a line of pixels at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just a particular website you were visiting, Alex.
Yeah.
The ones you sent me to, right? So yeah, it's kind of like that. So if you imagine that's what technology that we've been using has acted that way, where it's loading pieces in slowly, whatnot. Whereas what you've got in a headless website is it's already there, it's ready to go every time, and that's why it feels fast.
Yeah.
Just
This whole nesting of things is, or the macro of this is called edge computing, which is like, rather than have all of this stuff exist somewhere on all these other servers, you actually move it closest to the edge possible. So like, you even imagine if all of the data existed on, like, for example, the closest telephone pole to you, cell phone telephone pole, right? Then that the speed that you get, the efficiency that you get out of just immediately, oh, I don't have to make that many hops to get the info. That's like the big migration right now, is how can we get as close to the browser as possible? And 99% of everybody else is solving this in a weird, or not a weird way, but sort of like, they'll put like an AWS server for like the New York region, right? But what we're talking about is being like I'm in South Burlington, Vermont. Like, I'm like being right in like the neighborhood. So yeah, it just makes everything that much faster.
What's at the end of the day, what are the real advantages? I mean, most people probably, unless you've got a really slow dealership website, you're really not physically seeing that difference of a second. You're not paying attention to it. What at the end of the day, what are the real advantages of having a site that loads a second faster?
So we're not just loading a second faster, we're loading like 29 seconds faster. So if you're familiar, are you familiar with Google Core Web Vitals?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Big thing,
Alex is
basically, Google's coming in and saying, hey, we're starting to really consider Core Web Vitals as a metric for SEO rankings. What it really looks at is user experience. So like, how fast is this loading? How much shifting is going on? You ever like load like an art, like New York Times, and like the publishers are always annoying with this. You load like an article, and just as you're about to click the like read more button, it like moves around on you, and then you accidentally click like an ad or something else, and you're like, oh crap, I have to go back. So that's like content shifting. And so there's all these sort of metrics. You can go to www or you just web.dev. You can go to PageSpeed Insights, and you can put your own address in there. And on average, like an automotive website right now is probably scoring about a 30. We are scoring a 95 across the board out of 100 on all factors for both mobile and desktop. It is the fastest
where do you go again
website.
to check that?
pagespeed.webdev. Or web.dev. Sorry, pagespeed.web.dev. So, and you can put in not just your homepage, you can put in, any page on your site to see how that works. So it's looking at things like largest contentful paint, which means the first thing that I see, how quickly do I see all of it? The cumulative layout shift, which is what Ben was talking about, like, does something load and then move, which is very, very typical of dealer websites. And then all of the resources that have to load in the background that allow you to actually interact is what's called time to interactive. So you might see a button appear, but if for some reason there's something that has to load in the background for that button to actually work for you, then it's a bad user experience. And what actually this study is back from like 2016, I think, is what Google found out is that people leave the majority of their experiences if they don't have a time to interactive in under 3 seconds. And time to interactive also includes scroll, because there's actually an inhibitor to being able to scroll if the right elements needed to scroll the website aren't loaded into, like, that finger scroll on mobile is actually an action that has to be loaded as an element. It's like a server, like, how does my finger scroll? So you, like, sometimes you'll get to a website and you'll try to scroll and it won't even go, right? Because that element isn't even there. And the bigger piece of this is not just like Core Web Vitals is important. We're seeing massive variance in SEO ranking. Actually, one of the really interesting things is, and we'll talk about the project in a second, but we've gained over 800 new keywords that are year, make, model keywords nationally on this website that we built using all these microservices. And all 800 of those new keywords are actually keywords that are starting to rank VDPs that currently live on the website, 100% of them. And so, like, you now get the ability to rank that. But the bigger piece of this is not the fact that, like, you get this Core Web Vital thing. It's the fact that, like, what is it? 78% of America, Ben, lives in places that either don't have Wi-Fi, are typically on 3G connections, sometimes have poor 4G LTE connections, right?
It's you're reversing it. Still shockingly high. It's on average almost 30% of America doesn't have broadband, is operating on 3G, but still that's 1 in 3 of your customers. And that's like, so when you do Core Web Vitals, it's actually mimicking you're on a 3G connection. So we are loading in 1.2 seconds on a 3G connection, like time travel back to your Motorola Razr and like go on our website, right? So when a lot of people look at their current website, they're probably doing that in their office job with broadband, and they're like, what do you mean? This thing is fine. The stat from Think Google in 2020, I think it was, is that for every 0.1 seconds you eliminate offload time in Core Web Vitals, you increase conversion by 8.4%. 0.1 seconds. So going back to what Kyle was saying about, getting things interactive in under 3, we're interactive almost immediately. And that's actually one of the craziest things, was that we're seeing, like, comparative to December, a 700% increase in leads, 700% in forms, not counting phone calls. Compared to a 3-year average, we're seeing about a 500% increase. So, like, holy crap. But think about it from the context of the physical, because it's very much, to me, like the similar problem we see with the F&I box. All this fun stuff, right? Oh, that might be the car I like. Ooh, that's pretty awesome. And then you hit the box and it's backed up and you're like, get me the fuck out of here, right? That's where, like, the bottleneck is. Similarly, a person goes, ooh, Facebook ad, that's kind of a cool car. Interesting, click. And then for a lot of people, it's 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to painstakingly count to 30, but how much patience do you think you have from a consumer to get them to fill out anything on your website or interact with anything on your website after 30 seconds, right? Oh yeah, the price is that, and that's the car I wanted, but I ain't giving you any more of my time. Like, if you think of time as a currency, they've spent it all by that point.
Yeah, and like Bob just asked the question, any benefit to advertising and marketing? To be real clear, we've only, like, scratched the surface of the dollars that are being sent to this site now that we're seeing. But what we're seeing, and I think this is really, really impactful. Obviously, we're seeing all these lead increases. We're seeing all of this, engagement. But what we're also seeing is this ability to navigate quickly. And we're seeing some really, really wild shopping behaviors. So, like, if you think of the website as not just a lead gen tool, because even if, like, let's just say, for instance, we went from a typical website of, anywhere from 1 to 1.5% to 7 or 8% conversion rate, you're still talking about 90 something percent of the people. You've got to have a question of what are you doing with them? And so what we're seeing is, and I liken it to like this Facebook or Amazon experience of bouncing back and forth between elements, right? On Amazon, you go and search for something new and you go look at 15 products before you decide the one. And so where we were seeing most people get like 3 or 4 pages deep, especially when exhibiting shopping behavior, like going SRP to VDP, we're actually seeing them get like 15 VDPs deep in shopping behavior on this site because it's so easy to get back and forth. So now you're not just increasing conversion rates, but you're actually increasing aptitude to make this a shopping spot and then be sticky to the dealer or the group. So massive impact on marketing and advertising, because now you're actually caring for the 90% that really just need a shopping tool, because that's what they're telling us by coming to our website then leaving, right? They're not scheduling service. They're not submitting a lead form. They still need a shopping tool. But the majority of what our websites do right now is they let you get to one, you get tired, anxious, and things are flashing in your face. You're getting annoyed at chat pop-ups. You're getting annoyed at interstitials, and you're leaving. And now people are going, oh, I'll do this for a hot minute. And now I'm sticky. Now I'm attached to the brand, and I'm going to come back and do that more.
I still just get goosebumps. As you're clicking around it, I was just like, golly.
It's fast. I was on it earlier, checking it out.
It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So what was the increase in lead percentage, you say?
700% compared to December, 500% comparative to a 3-year average.
And you're going to contribute most of that around site speed.
Site speed and
there's
accessibility.
other things too.
Well, that
Accessibility
website
is
is super clean too. There's no pop-ups.
Yeah, that actually, it's such an interesting thing. So what everybody gets to see, and it's like fun to talk about because it's so tangible, is that website. I think we'd be remiss in like actually missing how you even get to headless. Like, it's not as simple as sort of just like calling your current provider and just saying, hey, I want to be headless now, like WTF, why aren't you guys headless? It's not going to work. You basically, what you don't get to see is all of the microservices, the microarchitecture that's working in the background, and sort of this data mesh, which is sort of like a data lake, but newer, that is taking, back to the just-in-time concept, right? You can only start loading attributes and data sets as fast as how clean and actionable your data is. So if you don't have a super clean data structure behind it, and instead, like we talk all the time about how one of the problems in our industry is that you kind of have all these bolt-ons on existing websites, right? Just tag after tag after tag after tag. And that's an issue. What we forget about is on the back end, it's bolt-on after bolt-on after bolt-on after bolt-on. It's Chrome data plus HomeNet plus vAuto plus my DMS plus my CRM plus my. Because we don't get to like see those. So this is as clean on the front as it is on the back because it's powered by an insanely powerful data fabric. I'm going to call it data lake from now on, just because everybody kind of understands that concept. But know that like all of the inventory is normalized. All of the consumer data is normalized. all of it is created so that the next iteration of this is hyper personalization. So that I'm not just loading a green leaf, I'm loading the leaf that I prefer to see.
So, well, one, I want to answer a few questions that are coming in. It's koons.com, KOONS.com. So if you're trying to get to it, I think there's one. Two is, there's this conversation kind of in the chat going on right now about not having bolt-ons, not having things on the website. And I want to say that's to a point, right? Because what we actually have in the website, like there's two kind of iterations. And I don't know if you guys want to pull this back up, but
Sure.
there's two ways that we've engaged other providers. Actually, if you go to the sell trade page, that is a trade tool that's utilizing APIs to look up things as we enter information. So we're hosting all of the content. We designed, created it with the influence of the Koons team to be the way that they wanted it to be, because like we liken it to building custom homes. It's like, hey, we like put your own granite in, put your own shades in, right? So they wanted it to look and feel a certain way. And so we used APIs to be able to infer and to bring forward the data that we need to. So it's an embedded piece of the site. So you actually get a trade tool that's embedded in the site. There's no script on that actual page, but you can get a full offer for your car.
Okay, let me. Can I give a different version of that?
Wait, no. Well, yeah, we could do this one, but that's kind of like the old version. I think the better version is the used car with Car Now. So if you could go to like shop and then filter by used real quick, and just find like that Sportage or something. If you click on that one.
Oh, I want to click on the yellow Supra.
I mean, you could click on that one. It's just going to be a little crazy, and then clicking on I'm interested. So we also, there's so many things. So we also like removed the number of things that are happening so that decision anxiety and fatigue doesn't happen. Right.
So you got one main call to action.
Exactly.
But once you click on that, it'll go to 3.
Exactly.
There's no fear around having that extra click?
Well, it's crazy. Because we're seeing like over 54% of the people that see a form fill a form out, right? So they're not inhibited by the click because it's boom, 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 right? So this is the one that's crazy. So if you click on Explore Payments, it actually opens up. And if you know Car Now, you know that this looks kind of different or kind of the same.
Yep.
But if you look at the URL,
I didn't know what you were using.
Yeah. So if you look at the URL, it's buy.koons.com. So when Ben was talking earlier about this edge computing, what we've actually been able to do is take that Car Now experience, pull it forward to the edge, implement it on a place that we can have onboard tracking, understand the customer journey, and then also actually shift it so that it's in line with the brand. So you don't have like brand loss in the experience. So the fonts, the colors, the textures, the boxes, the CSS is all ingested into that Car Now experience. And we were able to remove things they didn't want, add things that they needed to, and shift things to the user on the front end. And that's what they see in their experience. Sorry, I cut Ben off a few times. I just get excited.
No, dude, I mean, you're saying some of the same things I was thinking, which is like, someone was making a comment like, well, if I eliminated all the tags, my site would double. Totally. What's actually cool. So if you think about the structure of most tags, 75 to 90% of what a tag does is watch for events. We have a sort of a master, like Eye of Sauron level eye on this website that watches for the events. And then it feeds those events over to other providers so that you can get all of the benefit from sort of legacy tech that uses tags, but none of the clogging, none of the bottleneck. Now, what's cool on top of that is what Kyle was saying is like, actually, we can also start injecting things on top of existing products so we can customize those products without sort of needing official permission to do so, because you're
An
actually,
example of that.
you know, so if you think about back to the 1998 plus 20 years of web, where it's me, IP address, and browser going to DNS server saying, hey, go talk to this AWS server, and then you guys all communicate. What's really happening for us is, like, since we're right at the edge, as Carnow in that example is coming to get shown, we're already on the edge. So we're like, no, don't show it that way. Show it with the Coons color blue. Show it with the Coons font. You know what? Don't put that disclaimer. We want to write our own legal disclaimer. You know what? Show it like, and so even if you look at it, you can like look in the bottom and it says powered by AutoGenius, right? Which is just like, you know, kind of a graffiti tag for us. But that's like this new age of what we're calling micro transformers, of being able to take even legacy things, perform some alchemy on the lead, and turn it into gold.
Yeah, so like the powered by AutoGenius, we don't put it at the bottom of the primary website, but if you go to service, if you go to service and select like any of the service locations, right, you'll notice that it'll open like Xtime, which is what they primarily use. Yeah, and so like we've cleaned that up, right, because the Xtime portal is not typically, it's not actually accessible.
It's usually a frame in too.
Yeah.
Dude,
so we force some things to make sure.
Hold on. Let me ask that. Let me show you that too. So this is the other benefit, is trackability. So because we're able to inject things on top of that legacy system, we can now inject that Eye of Sauron on top of it. And so think about how much you have, how many dashboards you have that exist simply because you're not allowed to put a GA tag or another tag on KBB ICO or on that framed in product, right? Well, now, because we're able to inject something on top of that, what's super cool is we can actually start tracking the analytics on it as well. So that gives you, now you can create actually one unified view, even though they're bolted on, where, you know, they're almost becoming integrated, even though they're bolts.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions here. Kevin's asked twice. Things like phone tilt.
Phone tilt. I guess I don't.
Yeah, I was confused with that.
Kevin,
what's he asking?
Yeah, you're gonna have to clarify phone tilt, but asynchronous scripts, right? Like the common thing for most companies is like, oh, you can put our script on there because you can load it asynchronously, right? In the script, you just put async literally in the tag, and it loads asynchronously, meaning like it loads as everything else loads and doesn't impact, like the largest contentful paint would not be particularly impacted, but the total load speed, the total time to interactive is all without a doubt impacted by that. And the core web vital scores are impacted by that. And the main reason is not because the code, like the actual script, is loaded asynchronously. It's because all of the resources that are loaded in that code are not loaded correctly, right? So essentially, like you load that script in the right timing, but then, like, I mean, if you look at even the Google Maps API, right? If you've got I don't know, some of the other providers out there are like typically will put a Google Maps API on the homepage so that they can have a dynamic Google map that you can, you know, scroll in and out of. That API loads like 30 megs of data into the site, and you have to make the server request to go get that, which impacts the overall load speed. So, yeah.
So we got a definition for phone tilt. It's moving from portrait to landscape mode on a mobile device.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the behavior we can track on the website is bonkers. Like that, the level of granularity you're getting because you're on the edge is like, we know your location without having to ask, like, do you want to share it? We categorize every single person as like an anonymous user identifier. So like, user 1235x12, how did they get here? Here's the referrer. Here's, all the other cars they looked at, all the other things they looked at. Then as soon as they fill out a form, we actually go backwards and append that information so that you're still looking at a customer journey of like, oh, that's what this person's super interested. That's that's what they're preferring to do. And why do you do it that way? So that goes back to having a super clean data mesh, which then eventually allows you to say that like a person that looks at these 5 VDPs spends this much time on the site, maybe looks at it in landscape mode. We want them to have this very specific personalized experience. And we want a recommendation engine and the AI that recommends what the next car they should look at to be this, and so on and so forth. So that's when you start looking and creating, products that are essentially like custom tailored on the fly to the end user. Kevin, short answer is yes.
There was another question, and I think we should address this again at the end too. But Joe Webb was pointing out that he couldn't find your website, which was a question that I received yesterday when the show was announced from a few buddies. Like, who is AutoGenius?
Our secret society.
.io,
We are a
right?
secret society.
Yeah. It's autogenius.io. It's a 5-page, website that is dedicated to our member community, which is, I think, just another talking point of what we have here. Depending on where you're at in the country, it shows up first or second behind an AutoGenius used car lot. But to be fair, we've only been live about a month and a half on that, as far as submitted in the sitemap. So we're still, working on that to get it there. But yeah, first rule of AutoGenius is. So we actually don't have a website for the website or the microservices. And some of that's intentional because what we actually know is two things. One, the reason why we started this, and Ben and I can talk a little bit about this, but basically last summer, Ben and I realized that basically every conversation that we were having, and I was still at the dealership and he was consulting a website provider at that point. And every conversation that we had, it'd be like, oh yeah, I just talked to, Kilway, and I talked to Gray. No, yeah, Everson. Yeah, I talked to him about that last week. Or, I got to call Jake over at Coons and tell him the same thing. I know you're doing that. And Ben was like, let's put all of us, like the 15 that are doing cool things in WhatsApp. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And so we did it in Slack. And so thus the AutoGenius member community was born. And what we've really realized is that the coolest thing about this member community is it's super advanced thinker level in automotive marketing. It's the ones in the country that are pushing the boundaries the furthest, attempting the things like creating data lakes, like wanting to push back against their providers, wanting to do unique things with CSS on their current websites, and building things like type form integrations for vehicle ordering. Not your normal, like, run-of-the-mill slap a script on the website type stuff. And so what that then created was this energy around, hey, what if we started to actually build something out of this? And so, like, we're honestly prioritizing people that are coming into that community because it's a community that, like, is really tight knit, but also we know that will actually iterate and push the boundaries. Because the worst thing that we could possibly do is build an F1 car and, like, ask me to drive it.
The driver,
right?
Well,
and
here's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Look, I got to go off. So if you look at, and we talked about this when Lasher was on, and I was just bombarding chat. But if you look at Marco Schnabel right? Before he sold Automotive Mastermind, where did he work before Automotive Mastermind? He worked at a dealership. You look at Joe Chura, where did he work? Where did he get his whole origin story from? The dealership and the OEM. Pretty good argument you can make with Bonfigli, but definitely you can make a great one with Snyder and Joe Pistel, right? Like helping navigate and make dealer.com. And then all of a sudden, you also start seeing what happens when that voice of the dealer leaves. I'm just going to leave it like that. When the voice of the dealer leaves the company, what happens to the product? And it's crazy how many kooky ideas happen from some dev, some product manager somewhere that's never worked a day or set foot in a dealership ever. They don't even probably go to their dealership advisory board that's like in it for the free Super Bowl tickets and ping them anymore, right? And this is such a travesty because what could be amazing, cool ideas end up turning into these long iterative events because basically some guy comes up and says, I think we should do this. Let's not consult anybody. They go to market, they push it on people. Everybody goes, dude, why did you make the button blue? That doesn't make any sense. And then everybody goes back to the drawing board and it goes over and over and over again. And you end up with like 50 different variations of like a kind of good idea. What we said was like, wait a second. What if the dealer was always the guiding voice? What if like we executed exactly what the dealership wanted every single time? And so like first thing you have to like give mad props to is all the people in AutoGenius, the community that basically helped product roadmap and guide what we executed here. But then there's like one person that was like the itchiest to make a solution out of all of them. And his name's Jake Barron. I think he's been on Refresh before. Mm-hmm. And Jake at Coons was the one that was like, leap of faith. I want to be first. I want to crush everybody. And he and his team just like been phenomenal to work with. I mean, what I think has been the most impactful early on, like maybe 2 months ago, before he really like started going hard with the website, he was talking to a vendor and he wanted access to the API. And I'm not going to say the vendor, I'm not going to say exactly what level of data he wanted. But the vendor responded and said, oh, we only give that to our partners. And Jake was like, yo. I'm like the 13th largest dealer group in the country and like a $3.5 billion organization. What do I have to be in order to be considered a partner? Right? And this is the type of conversation we're really trying to change, because I think if you enable dealerships to be their own tech company, all of a sudden the conversation isn't like, hey, we're going to give you $200 off your next bill or give you some more product or whatever, more spotlights if you do this. It starts becoming like, yo, here we have 4 dedicated devs that can help you execute that dream of yours. Because if we're really going to compete with Carvana, who has a giant dev team, Vroom, that has a giant dev team, like CarMax, who has a giant dev team, like you're not going to do it by having something that's templated and sold to 17,000 other dudes. It's just not going to happen.
Man, you gave me a trip down bad memory lane. all those meetings I got invited to talk about the color of a frickin' button.
Oh God. I'll pass.
Sorry. Bad nostalgia.
You're like, get us off the call. It hurts. I think, one of the things that we haven't really talked about, and this is, if Kevin were on, he would probably punch both of us in our face. Kevin's our CTO. Sorry. He and co-founder. What's really important to Kevin, and I think has really become, I know has really become important to Ben and I, is accessibility. And if you've been around the dealership world in the last 2 years, you know that most manufacturers, as well as website companies, have either enforced or highly recommended some sort of accessibility tool on the website, right? You got Audio Eye, Accessibility, any of those. And the idea is twofold. 1, to not get sued, and 2, to make the website more usable for people that have accessibility needs, whether that be, sight or sound, or even things like mildly on the spectrum, but can't deal with like flashing lights or quick moving items or colors that are out of balance. Yeah. And so what we did, and what's baked into what we call the shell of this is exo shell, is a forced accessibility, meaning you can fully navigate the website with a keyboard, meaning you are never going to run into issues with things like contrast. You're never going to run into any of those things that might actually get you in a litigation round, right? Natively within the website, like no need for an accessibility tool, which is also coming in Google's ranking. If you use Lightspeed right now, or Lighthouse, sorry, in your browser, in the Chrome browser, you actually can see that piece of content, which means like they're going to rank based on that in the future, because what we know is that if you make it accessible for the people that need it to be accessible, is you make it accessible for everyone. We use this example. It's like if you've ever gone to Walmart or Target or anything like that, walked up to the double doors and hit the accessibility button, you now know the answer to why if you make things accessible, then you make it easier for everyone. And so that's another piece of this website. Like you were asking, like, is site speed alone what increased conversion? No, it's a mix of the right data, the information, the photos, the speed, the accessibility, not using scripts, not asking people things that are wastes of clicks, like what's your location. All of those things combined are what is driving conversion at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing irritates me more than too many questions. Name,
and
email.
Apparently Amy gets
vehicles of
upset
interest.
when you double up the model name on Mercedes.
Yeah,
But
I saw that.
The other one is the Ram. So.
Yeah, I don't have. It comes from the manufacturer like that, I guess. Whenever they do the VIN code, I have to deal with that all the time. And
yeah, Ram has that
can't
same
change
problem.
Yeah, if you edit it and you get OEM checks on your website, you can get one of those little pretty marks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's more of data cleaning that we're working. Obviously, I mean, we've been live on this. This is what's crazy is we built this thing in 5.5 months, right? And we're just in phase 1, right? So there's a lot of still to come type stuff in this. But and why Ben kind of led with the data thing is like we architected the site in such a way that whether we needed to ingest or expose more data, that piece of it is sound, right? And then everything else lives on top of that.
Yeah.
There was a question from LinkedIn about PII. So I'm assuming it's more of a compliancy question.
Right. Well, so let's see. Data lake versus data mesh. So data lake is like you have everything stored in this one centralized area. Data fabric is like, so in terms of like an Excel spreadsheet, you would have just one sheet, right? And then you have a bunch of entries on that sheet, columns and rows. Data mesh is more like take that one sheet and then on one of the rows for like Ben Hadley, right? Ben Hadley, here's all the things he did. There's all these columns now. Instead of imagining data being in one of those rows or one of those cells, I think is what Excel says. Instead of direct data, imagine it was a link to another database that had the data. So the stuff that Ben did ends up being found in this database, that database, this database, that database, this database, that database. But we still know Ben did all of these things. So it actually decentralizes your data, or it allows it actually to stay decentralized into the places that it needs to be, but then be recalled ad hoc and as needed. Hopefully that answers the question. Because like you might have Ben Hadley, some of the data that we're looking for about Ben is found in DMS, some is found in CRM, some is found in CDP, some is found in, you know, that Eye of Sauron event watcher, some. We just need to know exactly where in those databases those metrics are, and then you have more of a sort of data mesh.
Sheesh.
Okay, there we go. He sounds like it was satisfactory.
I don't even know who is that.
Don't know. A
Oh,
LinkedIn
thanks, guys.
user.
You knew I had to add someone. Oh, okay.
Anonymous.
Thanks, Anonymous.
We'll find you and hunt you down.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I did want to also show the I think the other thing that I love is the pictures. So all those images.
I found him and hunted him down, by the way. That's a tool.
You did? Oh, is it a tool? Oh, come on, a tool. Jeez.
He knows where
Don't
the
worry,
data's stored.
Hey, a tool. Don't worry. Our event stream can go bilaterally, so we can send you all the stuff you need, bro. Yeah. So all those images. So this is like kind of interesting to me. It was one of the things that was a Kuhn's idea, and was like, hey, we are trying to solve for like the OEMs will ding you if you have other cars in your pictures. So if you click on one of these cars, right, with the fake photo booth, a couple things you'll notice is like there's like 3 different neural nets working right now. So if you go back to the SRP and just look at that image, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the screen here. Sure, that one, and it doesn't really matter. So that is actually a 1 megapixel Viato image. Once you see it now, we've actually up-converted it to Retina. So it's still that 1 megapixel image. It's just been artificially intelligently enhanced to Retina. Now, if you go back, there's 2 neural nets that are predicting how high the camera was when you took the picture so that it can properly place the background. And then, of course, the other one is cutting around the car, figuring out where the light is, and then placing a shadow. So you can get a pretty decent effect from this. And I just think it's like one of the things that we're proud of is that like there's no idea that's off the book, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot
if
of people that have
if
done
you
that.
hadn't explained this, I
would have never
thought
known.
that was taken in the booth. But then I was questioning some of these, like, why are the
Why that?
interior shots outside? You know, that
Totally.
dealer's putting in a lot of effort here.
Well, so
Yeah.
man, okay. So 2 things. One is this is basically the ethos with us, which is like I've seen so many dealers say a great idea, and because it wasn't scalable, it gets added to Q5. And like, might I remind you, scale is like quite literally the death of innovation. Like scale, for some reason, has been glorified in our industry. What it really means is getting into copy and paste mode as fast as possible. And as soon as you're a product for everybody, you're really a product for nobody. So we love these like crazy ideas of like, hey, I get dinged by the OEM. Can you help with technology? It's like, fuck yeah, let's go. The other piece of this is, turns out, again, the dealer's right. When you compare the amount of SRP to VDP views on third-party publishing websites, so just the conversion metrics of going from SRP to VDP, where these same images will show up, we've increased that conversion by like, I don't know, Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like up 50%, 60%?
0.6% across the group. Because
So it's gone from
we obviously passed these back to the syndicator. And to be real clear, it's from 1.1 to 1.7 or 1.8. It's like 0.68%. And what's so interesting about that is most people would be like, it's not a big deal, right? But when you think about 5,000 vehicles and the number of SRPs, AutoTrader, Cars.com, or whatever is, saying you got, and you just increase click-throughs to your VDPs at that level, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of VDP views on third-party endemic sites over a 90-day period. Just because we got photos right. And so like, this is core to my, I preach this all the time. I'm like, merchandising is the first step in marketing, and the website is a part of merchandising, but also our photos and also our descriptions and also our features. And are they right or are they not right? And am I able to see it? And is it clear? And is there things that, like, some photo overlays literally make people that need accessibility plugins like have panic attacks. This is not a joke. And so when you're doing those things and when you remove all of those barriers, you just increase aptitude to engage.
Say that again.
Okay. So like about the overlays.
Yeah.
Okay. So literally, because of the colors or the pop or what's in front of the car, you actually, there are some people that, like, the same type of people that might, get annoyed by colors flashing on a website or videos acting the wrong way or cumulative layout shift. The same people that have that, you can actually induce like panic and anxiety in a shopping environment by having too many of these things like happening. And photo overlays are actually a part of that. Like, if you haven't designed your photo overlays with accessibility in mind, right?
I would actually argue we all experience kind of panic and anxiety.
Some level, yes.
At some level, it's just they're way more sensitive to it, right? Yeah. So like most people that are sort of in need of fully accessible websites, like, it's not like you and I can't just grab the handle of the door and just pull it open. But like 8 times out of 10 now, I just smack the blue button. Door opens for me, right? I have perfectly capable hands. I'm fine with it. I'm not that sensitive to it. Then there's other people out there that are like, dude, I need the button. Cool. So what we're finding is that, like, when you tailor it all to the most vulnerable, the sort of most sensitive, you have these upstream benefits to people that didn't even realize they were like annoyed with it in the first place. They were just tolerating it.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
It's like, I mean, we right now, actually in March, Google started introducing into their core Web Vital scores and their SEO scores, desktop interstitials, which an interstitial is basically anything that pops up without you asking it to, right? So chat or pop-ups or anything like that are now.
I'll send them an Auto Genius shirt.
Yeah, basically all of that, right? Yes, but that pop-up now is, even the chat is like, it's a part of what user experience for everybody is asking for. I mean, I was on a dealer website 2 days ago that I just simply got annoyed with the fact that I had to click out of the chat button on the homepage. Like, I haven't even done anything yet, y'all. So,
you guys are impatient. My Lord.
now that you're thinking about it, unfortunately, you're going to think about it more.
No, I'm not.
Like, once you know, you know.
Yeah.
Alex, everyone's just mad at you for wearing a blue shirt, man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm sending Alex an AG shirt. Hold on. That Ling's cars is finally gone. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's like give you a headache. Yeah, if you're sensitive, that's not the site you want to be on. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
The worst.
Well, you guys are working with some pretty awesome technology, man. I mean, some of the stuff I've never been, was really never aware of. Seeing what you can do with the photos and the AI around it, that's some badass shit.
You know what's really cool that I'm like super proud of is that I think I saw them on here. Luke Bivens, he's from Gatsby, who's a partner of ours, huge in the Jamstack community, and that's a piece of technology that builds this website. Yeah, Sanity also, Algolia 2.0 AI search is incorporated in this. Cloudflare, another big supporter. So like, what's been so cool is the amount of recognition that we've been getting outside of auto, because sometimes it feels like when you make a really fast website like this, you might just be like deemed as the fastest slow kid. Like, you're the fastest, but you're auto. And like for many, many years, I've always had like a chip on my shoulder that like we all know, for instance, the guys that are selling a CRM solution right now, they go back into their office or into their home office and they log their activity in Salesforce. And I think we tolerate it. We're like, that's okay, I guess. Like you don't want to eat your dog food. Like your CRM's good enough for me, but it's not good enough for you. Okay, fair. But I think there's like this, what this really represents is a moment where like home services uses Salesforce, HVAC uses Salesforce, like every other industry is using really crazy progressive tech. What we generally do in auto is go and make like a very kind of dumbed down automotive version of the tech and then put it in front of people. And then the funniest part is the vendor themselves goes, we would never, are you kidding me? We would never use that stuff. We're going to use the stuff everybody else uses. And so we're finally pulling like tech that quite honestly is starting to, this is the same stuff that powers Nike, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same stuff that powers Nike.com. We're bringing it so that automotive can finally get exposure to it, but then tailor it and configure it to their own so that it works for them. But that, I think, is how you stop sort of like always being sort of 5 years behind. That's how you have to like get there first, and then you can start surpassing all the other adjacent verticals.
Well, another reason around that too is scalability. I assume this is all pretty scalable as well. I mean, I can't imagine you would get into it without it being.
So actually, we're right now, I would say we are the most anti-scale company around on purpose. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I think scale to me is like scale too quickly kills innovation. Like if you take your product and then get to copy paste mode as fast as possible, then it's a competitive advantage for as little in a short of period of time as possible. What also ends up being a bad move for the company as a strategy is that you don't make much diversity early on. So, you get to copy paste mode, and then 3 years down the line, what you find is you have a lot of tech debt. So if you actually go to some of the current legacy providers right now, and you said, what is the number one thing you guys are working on? The number one thing they're working on is probably replatforming, creating microservices, doing what we've already done, because they have to go rip everything out because they didn't have very much diversity in the very beginning. They made this thing and then it propagated everywhere. Now it's at 13,000 places, and they're like, how do we move the Titanic?
You got me thinking about it's the end of the month right now, and there's something notorious for how well it works at the end of the month every month.
Oh yeah, CRM.
Yeah. CRM system of some sort. I can't remember the name.
Has to do with the vehicles, like how they're identified or something.
Yeah, some sort of solution.
Yeah, I want to real quick, because here's what, when I think the scale question, I want to go like all the way back to question 1, right? And it was like, so you guys are like a website provider. It's like, we built a website, right? But the real cool thing about like the way this scales up is that, and we've said this a few times, and I think people and then Ben even just said it, it's like, this is an ecosystem of microservices, right? So it's this bottom layer of microservices that we just, like in this project, ended up turning on a front end experience of a website for the Coons Auto Group, right? And so where most people are going, own the ecosystem, turn on a bunch of websites, we're saying build the ecosystem so that anybody can tap the ecosystem. And some people might want to build really, really custom homes with that, right? Really, really custom websites that are dynamic and actually like do just the coolest thing. Like someone came to us and was like, can we display like blockchain technology, vehicle identification elements in the front end of the website if we already have that over here? And we were like, oh yeah, maybe let's do it. You know, and like, you know, old dude in, I hate to pick on Idaho, but old dude in Idaho is, you know, at the Chevy store is probably not interested in that stuff, at least right now. Right. And so, but he might be interested in edge computing for his KVB ICO tool that he has zero visibility on, that he can't make look like what he wants it to look like. And there's nobody that has access to do that. And that's just a microservice that is actually happening. I mean, we showed it to you with like CarNow or XTime, right? So just that's a little like peer into the curtain. So yeah.
Well, we'd like to look under the curtain a few more times as you guys develop this further. And in the meantime, I'm sure there are some people who are trying to figure out how they can know more, learn more, maybe even get involved. How could somebody do that right now?
Go to the website, www.autogenius.io. Do not be a vendor. We don't accept vendors. It's only super progressive marketers in dealerships. And become a member of AutoGenius. That's who we're prioritizing right now. And pitch us your product, pitch us your idea. Doesn't have to be a website. The beauty of Headless, like Kyle was saying, is that like the data, if you think about 2008 when like the new screen was the phone, but now we're looking at the screen maybe being a kiosk, maybe being an Oculus Rift, maybe being, right, whatever. As the screens change, Headless allows it to be whatever it needs to be and just propagate the data to fit into that thing. So, you know, we love to hear from you, and no ideas off the table.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's too much to consume. Just I've
thought the same thing for the last.
It just all seems limitless.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
LFG. Thanks, Jim.
Well, congratulations on that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, and have a good weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.